Welcome our viewers all over the world and in China. Shane Hom, correspondent Shane Hom, here with you. I want to thank you for joining us through CGTN's various multimedia channels. And I want to describe first off where I am standing. I'm here in Seoul, South Korea, the capital of South Korea. And I'm in this location known as Gwanghwamun Plaza or Gwanghwamun Square. If anyone's visited Seoul before, you'll know this is a very popular tourist destination. It's also been in the news recently over the past couple of months and years. This was a site of candlelight protests that ultimately led to the impeachment of former South Korean President Park Geun-hye and led to the voting or election of President Moon Jae-in. But this is a popular gathering site here, and the reason I'm here today with you is because we want to talk about the weather. The weather is on everybody's mind here in South Korea. Everyone you meet talking about how hot it is here in South Korea. You may have seen in the news recently that nearby Japan has been experiencing record high heat. That's also the case here in South Korea as well. Just yesterday, we saw the county of Yeongcheon down in southeastern South Korea reach a scorching 40.3 degrees Celsius. That's the highest on record according to automated weather systems down there. Seoul reached a temperature close to 38 degrees. Today, luckily, we're receiving a little bit of respite in the weather. Highs are expected to reach 35 degrees here, but you can see here a good way to beat the heat here is, of course, jumping into these public fountains. You can see children here frolicking in the water. Very jealous of them, of course. As children, it's only instinct to beat the heat and to have fun in this water. But again, talking about the weather here, heat wave warnings are in effect for the entire country here. And what that means, meteorologists here or weather authorities issue heat warnings when the temperature exceeds 35, or the high temperature for the day exceeds 35 degrees Celsius for 2 consecutive days or more. And we've seen that all across the country. Another thing we've been experiencing is what is known as tropical nights. And we've seen 4 consecutive nights of tropical nights here. And what that means here is that temperatures exceed 25 degrees Celsius between 6 p.m. and 9 a.m. The following day. And we've seen that. And what that means is it's extremely hard to fall asleep without cooling systems and air conditioning. And what the city and government officials are doing now is they're trying to help citizens beat the heat, because this is obviously, with this record heat, it creates a social and also problems for communities, for the young, for the elderly as well. So I want to bring you along here at Gwanghwamun Square just to give you an idea of where we are going. So we saw here, this is a statue of an admiral from the Joseon dynasty in the 16th century. He's known here to guard this square here. And just off in the distance, which we'll get to in just a moment, is Gwanghwamun Gate. And that's where the emperors used to live during the dynasty. And just beyond that, if you can see here, we'll get to it, is the presidential office known as the Blue House. And that is, of course, the residence of President Moon Jae-in. But I want to show you this because this is what city authorities here are doing. They're installing these types of water mists so that citizens can cool off in this sweltering heat. And also a lot of tourists that come visit Seoul will come to this place here in Gwanghwamun Plaza, and it's a way to get through the heat because again, to compare with Japan has experienced dozens of deaths over the past couple of weeks. South Korea, not so much so, and it's hard to understand just why that is the case, but South Koreans have tackled with this record heat over the past couple of years. And the biggest problem, socially at least, is electrical or the electricity reserve level here that many people pay close attention to because South Korea obviously is a country, no oil exists here. Most of the oil here and energy is imported from overseas. And a couple of years back, I remember when a major blackout occurred here in the capital, and ever since then, authorities here have made it a point to try and keep energy reserve levels at a sustained level. A big part of that, another reason it's a problem this year is because President Moon has come in with an agenda of going against or away from nuclear-generated power, or as well as going away from coal-generated power as well because of the environment. So, so far, President Moon and energy authorities have said that reserve levels are okay at this point, up until now, but they are down to the single digits over the past couple of weeks. So that's something that a lot of South Koreans are keeping a very close eye on. But monsoon season comes here at about early June till about July, end of July. But this year, unseasonably, we've seen the monsoon season end very quickly. It was very short. Officially, it ended on July 11th, and that's why we're seeing this sustained heat wave here in South Korea as well. And weather officials think that this heat wave could continue on until the end of August. And what we're seeing, of course, you can beat the heat in fountains or in these water mists, but also popular destinations are cafes, department stores, or banks where people are trying to go to stay away from this heat. But I want to show you here, if you could just bear with me, be patient here, just to give you an outline of where we are. That's the United States Embassy here in Seoul, and there's obviously a lot of big police presence here constantly. Just yesterday, we had an incident reported here in Seoul of a case of one of these police officers standing right here collapsed in this heat. Unfortunately, he received medical attention. Reports say that he is okay, but that just goes to show for those that work outdoors in this sweltering heat, it could cause a big health crisis. And authorities, what they're doing is, you can see, if you can zoom in to those police officers, they're carrying parasols. Not a sight that you see anywhere around the world, but you can see that they're trying to stay out of the heat with these handheld umbrellas or parasols. And if you come just a bit more with me over this way, you can see that these lucky officers don't have to carry their own umbrellas because they have standalone parasols that have been set up. And speaking of parasols, what city officials and ward offices here in Seoul have been doing, and it's become a very, it's got received overwhelming support from citizens here in Seoul, is that at crosswalks, similar parasols have been set up so that people waiting to cross the street can at least take a couple of moments to get out of the heat and for their health, to try and stay away from the heat, obviously, because even for those couple of seconds waiting for the pedestrian light to change, that could be a very big help in trying to stay cool here. So you can see here these lucky officers standing guard in front of the U.S. Embassy here in Seoul under the shade so that they can do their job and they can do their duty. If you look here, another landmark here in Seoul for our viewers, that is King Sejong, and he's on the bill, the 10,000 won bill here, the currency, but he's also known as the founder and the developer of the Korean language, Hangul. So there's a little history tidbit for you as well. Just one more note before I leave you off here, and if you look off in the distance, that is Gwanghwamun, that is Gwanghwamun Gate. And if you look there, there's a changing of the guard ceremony that happens every hour or so, and those changing of the guard ceremonies have been canceled over the past couple of days, just to mind the participants as well as the viewers as well, who have to stay in this heat. But again, for those of you just joining us, South Korea, the entire nation remains under heat wave warnings to this day. It's been like that for the past couple of weeks or so, with temperatures approaching 40 degrees Celsius. That's not something that's very common here in South Korea. As far as reasons why the temperature could be soaring like this, you could say climate change is a case of that as well. But for all our viewers on CGTN, I want you to, just as a note, wherever you are, if you are in heat or in similar conditions like this, stay dry, stay hydrated, and stay cool, and take care of your health. So Shane Ham here in downtown Seoul, signing off. Leave it at that, and continue to stay tuned to CGTN. Shane Ham, CGTN, Seoul.